On cloud. Okay, good evening. This is going to be the first call for Infinite Woman. We are going to be reviewing the anti-inflammatory meal plan that I sent and really diving deep into what it means to go anti-inflammatory, reduce inflammation in the body. It's going to not just focus on the nutrition aspect, but also stress management, fitness, and overall wellness. So we are going to be moving through this. Bear with me with technology. It's always fun. Okay, so what we're going to cover tonight, what is inflammation, the causes, the signs, the role that stress plays on it, the role of hormones, food, how we combat inflammation, creating a plan to reduce inflammation, reducing the risk once that plan is implemented and you're feeling good, and how we move forward. So what is inflammation? Inflammation is just the body's natural response to an infection, an injury, some type of irritation. So you can think even your allergies, it's a sign of inflammation. When you get a cut and it turns red, a sign of inflammation. When you have knee pain from overuse and injury, that's inflammation. Another area we get a lot of inflammation is in our gut. So our gut is tissue. It's lined with receptors specifically for hormone health, and we can get a lot of irritation in our gut, mainly due to the food and irritants that we are consuming. So types of inflammation, acute. So this is really anything acute is short term. So again, if it's something like you cut your finger, it's healed within, a few days to a couple weeks, that's acute. Chronic inflammation is long term. So chronic inflammation, we see this especially in the gut. We're thinking symptoms like irritable bowel syndrome. There we go. So IBS, things like Crohn's disease, even RA. So long-term inflammation that usually you have to use some type of either prescribed medication, supplementation, or a lot of changes in your daily routine and diet. So chronic inflammation is what we want to avoid. And if we are suffering from that, we definitely want to tackle it first. Okay, so cause of inflammation. This can be unhealthy diet, so anything with like processed foods. And when we think of processed foods, a lot of times we only think about like fast foods. So things like, running over to Burger King or Wendy's, as well as, chips and soda and that kind of thing. But a lot of processed foods are just things that we eat quickly, the on-the-go meals that have a lot of preservatives in them. Preservatives are known to cause inflammation, especially in the gut. A lot of it is, chemicals, things that our body doesn't necessarily enjoy digesting. Other areas are lack of physical activity. A lot of us have sedentary jobs and we're kind of forced into that inactivity. So that can also increase our receptors and receptors to inflammation. Smoking, environmental toxins, chronic stress, we'll get back to that in a moment, and alcohol. So this is just kind of like the short list that can cause inflammation. The impact of chronic inflammation, we just spoke about that on the last slide, increases our risk of heart disease, increases our risk of diabetes, Alzheimer's, cancer, arthritis, autoimmune disorders. So basically all the scary things. Inflammation is not good. Chronic inflammation is not good. Our body does not want to be in a state of inflammation. So it does impact all of our systems. Okay, so signs of inflammation. These are some of the basic signs. For example, we talked about joint pain already. This can look like knee pain, arthritis type pain, flare-ups. I consider more of that inflammation style. So I know I've dealt with joint flares, basically very connected not only to my GI inflammation, but also inflammation just in my overall body, very much associated with hormone health. But that joint pain, I've experienced it anywhere from my toes to my fingers, neck, back, really any joint that you have can have that tissue inflamed. Another area is acne. A lot of times hormonal acne will kind of come on our jaw. Inflamed acne can can occur anywhere. It can be on our chest, our back, of course, our face. So that's definitely a sign if your acne changes. or becomes worse, that is a sign that there's a lot of inflammation in the body. Fatigue or chronic fatigue, where you just feel depleted. This can happen, when you wake up in the morning and you just can't get out of bed. You can't get yourself out of bed despite getting 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep. You're still exhausted. This can also look like, you get up in the morning, you're doing fine, and then all of a sudden around 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you just take a nosedive, and then your energy is just depleted. Of course, GI symptoms. So GI symptoms can be bloating, lower abdominal bloating, upper abdominal bloating, and then combination of diarrhea or constipation. Bloating is a huge major sign that there is inflammation in the gut. Bloating is not normal, and honestly, the majority of especially women that I speak with or talk to have some type of bloating. This can be kind of a variation. This can be something specific that you're eating. So, if you're sensitive to gluten, this could be a gluten sensitivity. And anytime you eat gluten, you get that inflammation or that bloatingness. This could also be you just eat anything and everything. And some days you get bloated, some days you don't. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're bloated. Some days you're not. Sometimes you go to bed bloated. It's like a combination, but bloating is not normal. So again, that is a huge sign that there is some inflammation in your GI tract. Weight gain, or on the flip side, severe weight loss. So it's like the extremes, because weight loss usually occurs when there's a lot of inflammation and your body is not able to digest the food properly and absorb the nutrients. So you're almost going kind of into like starvation mode. The weight gain part can be, again, due to hormone receptors not actually being triggered because the GI tract is so inflamed, resulting in weight gain or inability to lose weight. Your immune system, huge part of inflammation. If you find yourself getting sick all the time, or numerous times a year, again, this is a huge sign that your body is inflamed and its receptors are not doing what they need to. Trouble sleeping, not being able to get to sleep at night, stay asleep at night, waking up in the middle of the night and not getting back to sleep. And then of course, depression, anxiety, this impacts our mood significantly. So these are 8 of the main signs that there's inflammation in the body, and usually chronic inflammation. Okay, so stress and inflammation. How does stress impact inflammation? I think we all kind of know the answer to this. Stress has such a huge impact on our bodies. It impacts our hormonal response, which we'll dive into in just a moment, our immune system activation, inflammatory conditions, our menstrual cycle, our mental health. So stress has such a detrimental impact on really all parts of our body, mainly because of inflammation. So when we think of stress, chronic stress, we're not, honestly, I feel like we're all kind of in a state of chronic stress. We are so burnt out with work. We're too connected to our phones. Instead of choosing getting to bed early, we choose to stay on our phone and kind of go through TikTok and Instagram, as they call doom scrolling. So that impacts our sleep. We're not getting enough sleep. We're not getting enough quality sleep. When it comes to our hormonal response, like I said, our GI tract is filled with all of our receptors for our hormones. Those receptors are what helps create our hormones, our testosterone, our estrogen, all 3 of our estrogens, our progesterone, our cortisol. We need those receptors to be functioning properly in order for our hormones to be balanced. And unfortunately, when there's inflammation in the GI tract, that's not happening. Inflammatory conditions, I'd mentioned a few, but RA, MS, Crohn's disease, those are all parts of this, this inflammatory process. Not saying that it necessarily causes those, but it can make them more severe, which none of us want. And then menstrual cycle. Inflammation in our system can increase the severity of our menstrual cycle. So increased cramping, increased flow, increased mood swings, depression, anxiety. And then of course that's tied into mental health. So stress and inflammation go hand in hand. All right, so the hormones and inflammation somehow got combined, but let's break it down. So Hormones. I spoke to you a little bit about the receptors, but if we're looking at, let's start with cortisol. So cortisol is produced in our adrenal glands, which are just above our kidneys. Cortisol is our main, one of our main stress hormones, but it's not all linked to stress. Like it is actually what helps um, manage our stress, and it is the main hormone that is in charge of our sleep-wake cycle. So when we think of cortisol, we think of like a sine wave. So it's kind of low, it starts to go up, comes down into a curve, and then it goes low. So in the morning, it's low because we're just waking up, and then it gradually throughout the morning and afternoon, it starts to increase. That's what we want to see. In the afternoon, 12 to 3 o'clock, it should be at its peak, and that's when we should feel energized and we should not see that slump. And then slowly it starts to decrease as we start to prepare to go to bed at night. That's our normal cortisol levels. That should be it. Most of us are just kind of tanked. Our adrenals aren't showing up for us because of chronic stress. So that screen that you just showed you, which is going to look just like this one, because of chronic stress, we are depleting our cortisol levels and fatiguing our adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands are basically like, hey, you've overworked us. We're done. Like, just let us be. When that happens, one of the main signs is that even though, again, you're getting those 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep, you wake up completely zapped as if you didn't sleep at all. What can be happening while you're sleeping? You might not be getting into REM. You might be waking up on and off throughout the night because your cortisol levels are not keeping you asleep. And then also when you're waking up in the morning, your cortisol levels are so zapped that there's not enough to actually get you going. Then if we're seeing more of that drop during the afternoon, that's where we get that like afternoon slump, that feeling of like 2, 3, 4 o'clock rolls around and we are exhausted. We could literally sit at our desk and fall asleep. That just means we're not getting that bump up of cortisol. And again, it's just kind of taking a nosedive. So cortisol plays a huge role in managing, like I said, stress. When our bodies are in chronic inflammation, it puts our body into a stress mode and depletes our adrenal glands. When we're looking at estrogen, all three of the estrogens, there's E1, E2, and E3. E1 estrogen, you want to think about it kind of as like the bad cholesterol. We still need it. E1 is very important. We just want it to be lower than our E3, which is our good cholesterol. Both are needed, both are necessary, but we want one to be a little bit lower, one to be higher. When we're in a state of stress, when we're in chronic stress, E1 goes high, E3 goes low. E1 loves to fuel or feed off of fat cells. Stress promotes fat cells. Stress promotes holding on to the fat cells. E1, loving to feed off fat cells, also promotes holding on to fat cells. Fat causes inflammation. Inflammation, you can see the cycle. Everything is kind of like cycled through. Estrogen E1 holds on to fat cells. Fat cells cause inflammation. Inflammation is tied in with E1. So there's a nice little cycle there. Then we look at progesterone. Progesterone we need for our luteal phase, we need for fertility, and a body that's in chronic stress does not have enough of the energy or the receptors in the GI tract to really provide the progesterone we need. So this can impact fertility. This can impact our menstrual cycle a ton. It can change our menstrual cycle, from a 28-day cycle to a sporadic cycle. And then we're going to come on down to now testosterone. Testosterone has a huge role with tissue production, so muscle tissue, skin, hair, nails, bone density, and then our immune system. Again, inflammation. When our body's in a state of inflammation, testosterone isn't going to be high on the list of things that it wants to focus on. So that's what kind of tanks our immune system and can affect our skin, hair, and nails as well. So thinking acne, thinking brittle hair or hair that's shedding more, and then of course brittle nails. So I'll leave that there for hormones and inflammation. We'll kind of move on. I could talk about hormones and inflammation all day long, but let's go into the good, the bad, the ugly when it comes to food and inflammation, okay? So you can probably guess what's on these lists. Foods to avoid: trans fats, saturated fats. Saturated fats, a lot are in red meat, full fat dairy, and palm oil. Excessive or added sugar. So there's a very big difference between added sugar and natural sugars that you're getting from fruits. Fruits, let's go for it. Added sugar, excuse me, including the sugars that are becoming super popular, like stevia. We are trying to avoid those added sugars, avoiding additives and preservatives, and refined carbs. So white rice, white bread, cereals, um, basically like bleached carbs. Um, then this one is not any, this is nobody's favorite: excessive alcohol, or really just alcohol in general. Alcohol is extremely, extremely inflammatory. Our bodies don't like it. It's a toxin. With that said, I'm not going to be the one that doesn't or says not to drink completely. I enjoy my glass of wine once in a while. I enjoy my drink out with, girlfriends and in brunch, but just being aware of that. And then what do we want to enjoy? Omega-3 fats are so, 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 so amazing for reducing inflammation. They are great for cognitive function. They're great for joint health. So omega-3s all the way. Obviously, seafood are good for that. Chia seeds, and you can always do a supplement of omega-3s. Colorful veggies, all the veggies, whole grains, lean proteins, chicken, turkey, salmon, scallops, tofu. Quinoa is a phenomenal lean protein. And then, of course, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices. I will do a turmeric latte every day, all day. Love my ginger, love cinnamon. Some really easy spices you can add into meal prepping. So those are the good, the bad, the ugly for foods. So how do we combat inflammation? Obviously, we talked a lot about food just there, but we want to, of course, think of a balanced diet, regular exercise, stress management, and adequate sleep. Again, this is kind of all just a cycle. If we are eating well, we want to exercise more. If we're exercising, our stress is usually down. That's a great stress management technique. If our stress is down and we're eating well and we're exercising, we're sleeping better. So it all compounds onto each other. And it's really just creating a plan. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So how do we create a plan to reduce inflammation? First off, you're already working with me, so that's a huge start. But we want to identify the culprits, like what's causing our inflammation. And that's, a conversation to have with your coach. And we look at, are you having GI dysfunction? Are you having hormone dysfunction? Is sleep an issue? Is nutrition an issue? Is fitness an issue? We identify those culprits, and then we identify any challenges that you have. And I think this is probably the most difficult, because there's only so much we can control, but there's still a lot that we can control. So hydration plays a huge role in flushing out toxins. So you can absolutely get that water in. Set alarms. I know for a few of my clients, I put on their app where they have reminders 3 times a day to drink their water, which, hey, I'm going to do that right now. And then stress. Stress is our biggest culprit. Whether that is work stress, dealing with a chaotic, crazy schedule. I know far too many of you have work days that aren't just a 9 to 5 anymore, because we're so interconnected with, everyone texting us, everyone emailing us. We end up going from, 6 a.m. in the car getting into work because traffic's terrible, to it's 7, 8 o'clock at night and we're finally just shutting down. And then we might be shutting our computer down, but we're suddenly on our phone, surfing through Instagram, surfing through TikTok, catching up with friends. And all that screen time is just playing a huge role in our poor sleep. So that's another challenge, creating those boundaries for ourselves, and really focusing on saying no and getting comfortable with saying no. I know for a fact that that's something that is one of my challenges. When I get asked to do something or to help out with something, I'm always the yes person. And I've learned over the last couple of years, I can't, or else I get burnt out, very quickly burnt out, or my health goes down the drain because I'll put so many other things ahead of eating. Exercise, that is always on top of my list. But Some days I'm go, 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 go. And then suddenly I'm like, huh, when was the last time I ate? And I know that is a challenge for most of you. So, yeah, getting comfortable with saying no, getting comfortable with creating those boundaries, and really focusing on where you can make these changes without that, I shouldn't say without, more so changes that you can make that do fit your lifestyle. So you identified the culprits, you identified your challenges. Now we're implementing that change, okay? And I'm not gonna say implement everything all at once. So, for example, for myself, last week I sent out an email everyone got about, creating that boundary, and I needed to kind of create systems for communication so I wasn't overwhelmed. That was my first step. This week, my second step is creating daily check-ins for myself for messaging clients, for going on social media. So I'm checking it 4 times a day, 30 minutes at a time, at 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 8 p.m. So those 4 times, total of 2 hours a day, is when I'm communicating with clients and on Instagram, communicating with, my community. And that is going to help me from distractions that I could utilize to get work done so that I'm not working until 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm shutting it down. And 8 o'clock is when I shut down everything, except for tonight. And that means I'm putting my phone away. I'm turning the TV off. I'm getting rid of screen time from 8 to 10 before I go to bed. I'm reading a book. I might be folding laundry. I'm going to be doing the things or meal prepping, doing the things that I need to do to prepare for the next day and to calm my nervous system down. Other changes I've made, meal prepping. I'm getting back into my good meal prepping habits, because protein intake was something I was suffering from. I was realizing that my workouts, although we're growing great, I wasn't recovering well from them. So back to meal prepping. My water is attached to my side. I'm always making sure that I'm getting my 80 ounces plus of water. So implementing those changes step by step, I'm doing it slowly. And then staying consistent. This is the most challenging. Staying consistent, because in order to build a healthy habit, we need to stick with it for anywhere from 30 days to 6 months. Let's be real, depending on the individual. So staying consistent, I know for the social media communication part, I have it on my phone every single day. I have a reminder. So that's my way of staying consistent. And it is, I think I booked it out for forever. So however long I need to build onto that habit. I know that there's going to be days where I'm not good at it, but I just reset and I continue to work at it, continue to work at it. I know, having conversation with a lot of you, there's days where you just don't feel like you are able to stay consistent. There's days where, kids are sick, there's a party, there's an event, you have to travel for work. Those are all temporary issues. Those are all temporary hurdles. What you do is you get through that and then you restart your habit, or you don't even restart it. Let's take restart out of that. We start back up with the habit that you've already implemented, that you've already been successful with. We continue on. So, not allowing yourself to kind of like stray off of it because you feel like, well, I failed, I guess that's it. Stay consistent. That is huge. And then check in with yourself. So check in, am I doing enough? Do I see improvement? So those are, I do my check-ins with each of you every week anyways. And that is the key. We have to check in with ourselves in order to make sure that, again, are we seeing progress? Do we need to make changes or tweaks to our plan? So check in with yourself. And then the last one, ask for help. If you're like, you know what, I'm struggling with this, ask for help. I have had numerous trainers in my past, like, working on fitness. I've worked with nutritionists and dietitians. I've had amazing therapists. I have an incredible business coach right now because I know where I need help. And finding that that avenue to ask for help is so important. You have me. You have me to ask for help. You have me to communicate, your concerns, your challenges. So that maybe should be number one, but ask for help. So we're identifying the culprits. We're identifying our own challenges, our own barriers that we need to get over, implementing that change, and then staying consistent, checking in with ourselves, making sure that what we're doing is working. And then if it's not, or if we're just struggling, ask for help. Okay, so you've done all this, you've implemented it, you're feeling good. How do we reduce the risk of this ever occurring again? So once the inflammation is reduced, we're feeling bloat-free, pain-free. How do we maintain it? You maintain it by utilizing the strategies you just implemented. You maintain it by not going backwards. We need to continue, anti-inflammatory choices. Not necessarily the diet that I will be reviewing in a moment, not that 21-day kind of detox. More so choosing good foods, reducing, again, avoiding the refined carbs, avoiding that added sugar, avoiding alcohol, trans fats. We got to stick with that. Stress management, we got to stick with to a T. We got to make sure that we are, again, checking in with ourselves, doing yoga, doing our meditation, which we're going to be focusing on this month. Stress management is such a huge piece in this. And honestly, it should be number one. Stress should be number one for all of this. We need to manage our stress. Healthy exercise, limiting alcohol, avoiding processed foods, drinking enough H2O, and listening to our body. All right, so next we're going to look at that 21-day gut reset, and then just talk about what our stress management focus is going to be this month. So I'm going to stop sharing this for a moment, and then I'm going to pull up that 21-day gut reset, and we are going to review. So everyone has access to this through the app. And there's going to be both a vegan, vegetarian, and then a normal plan as well. So whichever one you want to follow, and you can open up both and see kind of what recipes you want to enjoy. All right, so let me share this screen here. There we go. Okay, so again, everyone has access to this, our 21-day anti-inflammatory, inflammatory detox. All right, there's instructions here you can kind of go through, and this is really talking about basically what I just went over, why all of this is so important, why it's necessary for rebalancing our gut. And these are going to be kind of FODMAP foods. So anything that is difficult on our digestive system to break down. So these are the foods to enjoy. These are the main foods that you'll kind of see in the meal plan as well. And then these are the foods to avoid. Okay. So again, here's your plan for that inflammatory detox. All right. So this one's the big one. This is breaking down each day. So in the morning, within an hour of waking up, you're going to start off with our anti-inflammatory shot. You have a few options. You can make your own, or you can purchase one. I have a few options at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods. I know other places have them too, but that gives you kind of an idea. Not super hard to make either, but again, it's time consuming. Then you go into your smoothie between that 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. time. This is really just to kind of soothe that digestive tract. I would recommend most of you adding a scoop of protein powder as well. That will get us to 100 plus grams of protein a day, and make sure it kind of fuels you to get to that energize and refuel time. So between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m., we're looking at a nice little hot mug of matcha or green tea. Matcha and green tea are so high in antioxidants, and antioxidants, again, help with decreasing inflammation, especially in our gut lining. And then we've got our afternoon. So afternoon, we're looking for that 1 to 3 p.m. time frame, and we want something that is a high protein fuel, so high protein lunch option. We'll look at that in just a moment. Dinner time, 5 to 7:30. This is where we're going to jump into some anti-inflammatory soups. soothe our GI tract, warm it up, get that metabolism going. For hydration, all about H2O, get that water in, herbal teas, no caffeine. The only time you're going to see that matcha or green tea, that caffeine, is going to be between that 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. time. Okay. And then for water, you can add lemon, ginger, mint, just to kind of flavor it. But we're looking at least 64 ounces. That is bare minimum. Like I said, I'm usually trying to do 80 plus. Snacks, lots of options for like raw fruits, veggies. Um, okay, maybe not lots of options, but great options. We love raw fruits and veggies. All right, so again, starting here, anti-inflammatory shot. It is delicious. We've got our smoothie resets. We've got a few options. This is one of my favorite. This one incorporates kefir, aloe juice, flax seeds, chia seeds. It is just like the powerhouse GI smoothie. Um, the green refresh smoothie, it's delicious. All right, so mid-morning snack. This, you might not notice it on here, but mid-morning snack is going to be with your energize and refuel. Okay, so between that smoothie and lunch, you're going to do your hot matcha, your green tea, and then right here, enjoy a mid-morning snack. So mid-morning snack is also high in protein, but this is going to be a little bit more carb focused to get that energy going. So chia seed pudding is a great option. Overnight oats, one of my favorites. And of course, the yogurt bowl. I'm a classic yogurt bowl girly. So those are some options there. And then ginger pear cream of wheat. All about the ginger. Let's add that ginger to decrease inflammation. All right, so moving down, we've got that energized, some options there. High protein lunch. With the high protein lunch, we're very, very much focusing on protein here, reducing carbohydrates so we don't get that like slowdown of the system. We want to continue that like jump start to the metabolism. And this is kind of helping rebalance your energy, especially if we're dealing with any cortisol issues. So lots of options there. And then we got our soothe soups. So there's the beet detox, butternut squash with bone broth. Bone broth is going to increase that protein. Sweet potatoes. We've got spicy Thai ginger soup, the lemon chicken ginger soup, and parsnip apple puree. All phenomenal. I've had the majority of them, and if not, it's something very similar. The goal again is to kind of soothe that digestive tract before we go to bed so it continues the healing process as we sleep. You are with this, I recommend again between 5 and 7:30. If you're feeling like you're getting dinner at like 5:30, and you're feeling a little hungry towards the end of the night, you can have a second bowl of the soup as well, or snack up on, again, raw veggies and fruits. So that's going to kind of be what you're looking at for 21 days. Okay, I know 21 days can seem a little daunting. It's 3 weeks, but this is a great opportunity to, again, kind of reset the gut so that anything that we're focusing on after, stress management, the fitness side of it, the hormone health, just has a better chance of working. It has a better chance of working quicker. We're all about efficiency here. So we want to make sure that, we're getting your body working as well as we possibly can, as quickly as we can. So you're feeling better. So staying consistent with this. If you have specific questions, send them my way. If you're like, do I need to do this? Should I? Let's talk about it. We'll talk about it in your check-in, but it's always going to be available for you. So if we get to a point where it's like, hey, I kind of got off track, life was crazy, had weddings to go to, had events, was traveling for work, we can jump into this and, do a 21-day inflammatory detox and then get the ball rolling, reset and continue on with our normal plan. That's the best part. Again, life is crazy. Life gets in the way. So utilizing this as a tool in your toolbox is going to be important. From there, I want to jump into our self-care, stress management. So you'll be seeing this week some meditation videos popping up on your app as well. It's going to be an intro to meditation, intro to body scan, and then full meditation videos and meditation, mobility, yoga style, to really just reset your body and calm the nervous system. We want to get you out of that fight or flight and get you feeling less stress, reduce the inflammation in your body in that aspect as well. And, I think just by reducing your stress, it improves your quality of life. So that's the goal. That's the focus for this next week. Again, every Sunday night at 8:30, we are going to be having these calls to discuss what we're planning for the following week, what we're planning for the month, and also just to talk out any challenges that we're all dealing with, and kind of how to reframe the mindset and continue on. This is how we're successful. Again, this is where we have a support group where we ask for help. So that is it for tonight. Thank you for joining. Sending you guys all love. This will be recorded. This is recorded and it's going to be up on the app. But yeah, this is it. This is it. Let's get this Monday started and have a great week. And I'll talk to you guys soon.